Today, I want to share with you the essential, foundational, and most underrated ingredient needed for healing the burden of chronic pain and being able to live a life where you can wake up in the morning and feel free to do whatever it is you want to do that day. And to do so, we're going all in on the ingredient metaphor here, and you guessed it, we're about to compare healing chronic pain to baking a cake. Or maybe you didn't guess it. Because, clearly they're related, right? And, let's make something clear, I'm a chronic pain specialist, not a baking expert, so bear with me if I happen to get something wrong regarding baking. And let me know. So, first, we're going to jump way ahead in our cake making process. Let's say you've already gotten to the part where you have your perfect batter. The oven is on, and it's all ready to go. You've already followed the instructions step by step. You've done exactly what the recipe book told you to do. And if you're like me, you've even texted your mom a picture to make sure it looks right. And it has her stamp of approval. So you take this gorgeous batter you have, you open up your oven, and you just pour the batter right onto the grates in the oven. Wait a minute. That's not how this works, is it? What do you think's gonna happen if you do that? A big fucking mess. And you definitely don't end up with cake in that scenario, right? But this is what I see happening over and over and over again with so many people suffering from chronic pain. They're doing the research. They're putting in the work. They're getting the interventions. But something is just not translating. They are not getting the results that they were aiming for. Now, this can show up in different ways. Whether it shows up as frequent visits to the chiropractor or massage therapist, where they're constantly needing to recorrect or re-release the same freaking thing every time. Or maybe one thing holds, but something else just needs to be addressed, and it feels like they're just chasing symptoms, or maybe nothing they do ever changes anything. Maybe it shows up as you doing the journal prompts and the meditations faithfully. You are following exactly what the program said, but instead of relieving you, it's actually leading to more anxiety or agitation, or just, it really isn't changing anything. Or maybe it's showing up as you trying to change your thoughts. You've been told, hey, I just need to think differently about my pain. I just need to think more positive. And logically, maybe you even get some of them. Some of the thoughts do sound better than what you were thinking, but internally, your nervous system is just like building this tension and like freaking out inside, and frankly just feels gaslit. And plus, none of these new thoughts seem to be giving you the freedom you're hoping for. Or maybe it feels like you can't even get to the batter stage. Maybe it feels like any attempts you do follow to what you should be doing leads to paralysis, and you might refer to that as, or be referring to that as self-sabotage, or just being like, I'll do that when. Now, if you're experiencing any of these things and have had chronic pain for more than 6 months, no one can seem to tell you what's wrong, chances are you're feeling stuck and hopeless to pain. And I get it. And there is great news, because I've been there too. And if you're like me, there's probably a missing ingredient. And this is what I have seen over and over and over in my clients that were all in the same position as I was, and that you likely are in right now. And in this case, you already probably guessed what it is. It's the cake pan, the thing that holds everything together. The thing that without it, you might have some great tasting batter, but you're never gonna get to the cake. And so now let's be practical here. What is the human equivalent? Because that's, I know, what you really care about. And that is what I have termed nervous system capability. At the very core, this includes the ability of the nervous system to even hold or receive any of the interventions we're providing. And it is oh so much more as well. Now, in my framework of unweaving chronic pain, nervous system capability is just one of the 3 bubbles that are required to becoming a self-partnered powerhouse. That is, someone who has taken the time to understand and explore explore the nuances and richness to their pain. Someone who is no longer living in fear and anxiety of their pain. And a self-partnered powerhouse is someone who is no longer at the mercy of their pain and instead has sovereignty of their body and understands what actions will be most supportive and aligned for them. It means they can wake up in the morning and just feel free to do whatever it is they want. It is someone who feels safe to experience the fullness of life, including joy, happiness, laughter, desire, and movement. Now, within my framework, I envision these as bubbles, as like this almost dynamic Venn diagram. Now, if I was fancy and had cool graphics, I could show you these. I don't know how to do that yet, okay? But so just imagine right now, if you almost have these bubbles that can like pulse and grow and shrink over time, okay? Sometimes they can like move over here, and sometimes they can all start overlapping like a Venn diagram would, right? But as they expand out and do begin to overlap, because some of them might start out really small and over here, when they're in that overlap, that is what creates the self-partnered powerhouse. Now, all of these bubbles are required to achieve that. Just like you can't leave out the eggs and expect the cake to turn out the same. They're all incredibly important ingredients. And to me, though, the nervous system capability, it's the pan. It is the most foundational of the bubbles because without it, it doesn't matter how large and overlapping your other two bubbles are. You cannot become a self-partner powerhouse without nervous system capability. And without that, it means we get stuck feeling hopeless to pain. Now, in our next video, don't worry, we're going to be talking about the other two bubbles as well. But for today, we're going to focus only on nervous system capability, and even then, only on a small piece of it. So first, what is it? And actually, before we even get into that, let's talk about why are we talking about the nervous system in the first place? Now, you may already know this, but just as a quick overview, chronic pain ultimately is always due to a sensitized nervous system. There are no exceptions. Now, if that happens to be brand new information, I recommend that after this video, don't worry, you can keep watching this video, you don't have to pause or anything, but after this video, go check out episodes 4 and 7 of my Unweaving Chronic Pain podcast, where I go a lot more into depth of this, because I'm not going to be going more into it for today. So hopefully we can all agree to nervous system sensitization is kind of this root cause of chronic pain. But we also want to know what's the root cause of nervous system sensitization, right? Then the other thing to note is that a sensitized nervous system will always have limited capability. Why? Because ultimately our nervous system is constantly responding to your internal and external environment. That's what it's doing all day long. And when it is sensitized, it means it is hypervigilantly scanning for threats. Again, both internally and externally, which takes an extraordinary amount of effort and will actively prevent us from resting, recovering, or even getting into flow state, which means even when we are working, we aren't nearly as productive as we could be. That's also, by the way, why burnout is so freaking common with chronic pain. Different topic for a different day. In the real world, this looks like constant anxiety. This looks like entering in a room of people and picking up on all of their emotional states. This means stuffing down our own desires, thoughts, and opinions when we feel that expression might piss someone off or just make them uncomfortable. Basically, it means feeling like no matter where you go or where you are, there are hidden threats lurking, whether that's internal from chronic pain that might flare up or external from someone's reaction or something else entirely. I'd also like to emphasize here, of course your brain does this. This is literally what the brain has evolved to do. Nothing has gone wrong with your brain in particular, okay? In fact, it's operating exactly as a brain that has evolved to keep us alive should operate. The problem is when all the brain can focus on is the survival, which again is related to the sensitization, it cannot focus on thriving. And without going into it, again, huge topic, we live in a very different world than cavemen did. Cavewomen too. Where safety, as hard as it may be to see sometimes, is actually abundant. And until your nervous system can feel it is safe, it will continue to scan for threats and stay sensitized. And this is why nervous system safety is one of the pillars within the bubble of nervous system capability. Now, I define nervous system safety as our ability to trust our capability and skills to move through any incident, pain, or emotional state. Please note in my definition, this is not the absence of discomfort, pain, or certain hardships. Now, I would like to make a quick disclaimer here. I am coming from the assumption that those watching this do have their basic needs met and are not in the midst of experiencing violence or emotional abuse that they're unable to get distance from. If this is not you, then this video is likely not what your focus needs to be on right now, and please feel free to contact me if you need resource recommendations, because that is a prerequisite. Excuse me. So, one of the fundamental components of building nervous system capability is actually learning to find safety even alongside discomfort and pain. Because here's the thing, the second we make being discomfort free, and that is in the physical sense, the emotional sense, or just in what's going on in your life sense, the second being, all those things being perfect and us feeling perfect is a prerequisite to safety, all we do is ensure that our capability shrinks. We will then get stuck in constantly seeking and requiring a level of safety that, frankly, is unobtainable. And the more we see certain things as threats, the more we just train our nervous system to be hypervigilant. It becomes a self-perpetuating cycle. So if we see physical discomfort or pain as a threat, it increases the sensitization and hypervigilance, which again further sensitizes it, which further increases our pain levels and makes more and more inaccessible to us, makes safety more and more inaccessible to us. Now again, I get it. Again, the brain is naturally going to go on this vicious cycle without intervention. So it happened to me. It happens to most people in chronic pain. So again, just so much compassion if you're recognizing that you're stuck in this cycle. Now, if you are stuck in this cycle, this is also why so many techniques like mindfulness, breath work, and somatic work, really any work that requires being in your body, it's why this type of work can create so much resistance or unintentionally make us feel worse. And without getting into too much nuance here, because there's a lot of nuance that I bring in within my program, but it's just too much for this one video. But this happens because the nervous system feels it is inherently unsafe to go into the body. So it's just going to resist it. And one of the reasons, again, there are more, but this underlies other ones such as the obvious one of trauma that you're probably thinking of, is that there is no safety established to being with uncomfortable sensations. And certain emotions and feelings and sensations have been linked due to past events as inherently unsafe. Now, as a quick example, and probably the easiest example to illustrate, but actually not the most common one I see, but it's fairly common. If anger has been associated with explosive unpredictability, or worse, and this created unsafe scenarios for a child, then anger itself, even healthy anger that is now felt by the adult child, who has grown up, right, becomes a dangerous emotion. So the same adult, when coming across anger in their own body, those same sensations, it will trigger a nervous system threat reaction. And this enforces that link between accessing our body, because hey, that anger was in our body, and threat. So our body just learns to avoid it. Now, I also see the same thing with grief, sadness, disappointment, frustration, and even emotions such as joy, happiness, and desire, and other positive ones, or ones that we, label as positive. Over time, it really no longer matters what is happening in the body, just, sensation-wise. It is just that it's unsafe to be in it, period. So, we first must build safety to even begin to explore what is going on in our bodies. And within my program, I cover specific techniques and teachings to do just this. Because once we have the safety to explore, this alone begins to grow that bubble of nervous system capability, which remember is that foundational piece, the pan that holds everything together. And then when we can bring in the other techniques within nervous system capability that help our capability grow, the bubble continues to expand and expand. And the more this bubble expands, the more our lives expands, the more that our experiences can expand. And as our lives expand and our capability grows, our nervous system sensitization decreases. And through all of this is how we heal chronic pain and get our freedom back. Now, in the next video, I'll be exploring the other bubbles and the other ingredients to fully baking our cake and how they fit in as well to expanding out our lives and helping us fully step into becoming a self-partnered powerhouse. I'll see you there. Bye.